Cool. Yeah. So our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are now. And your work as a producer, and of course your original music coming out. So cool. First off, tell us, are you from LA originally, born and raised there?
No, originally from Nebraska, born and raised in Lincoln.
Okay.
And then
What was that like?
It was cool. It was like, it was kind of like suburban Americana, like I would like ride bikes around with my friends in the neighborhood, play basketball and skateboard and, get into all types of like dumb stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
But also kind of boring. And I think that's maybe part of why I got into music, because it was something fun to do,
What was the first instrument you learned?
First learned drums.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like drumming, and then just like in elementary school, and then.
Oh, wow. You're really young when you started playing drums, like a full kit and everything?
Not a full kit. Like I started out just like in the symphonic band in elementary school, just like playing like a snare drum or like a tambourine or something.
Sure.
And then in middle school, I got like my first drum kit, and it was just in like the basement of my dad's house, and it was just like all concrete walls, like terrible drummer, like Nirvana and headphones, just like smashing the drums, like and like my whole family would like leave the house when I would drum because it was so loud that like, and I was so bad that they were just like, we can't deal with this. So we just like set a schedule. It was like, all right, Eli's gonna play drums this time. We're gonna go get like some sandwiches or something, So yeah, started playing drums. And then I would play drums in all these different random things, even as a kid. So like in middle school, I was playing drum set at home and then playing like the bands there. And then one of my teachers was in this like Scottish pipe and drum band. Where it was like bagpipes and like marching snare drums that was run by this Ugandan dude.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Who I guess, I don't know how he got connected to it, but so I was in that. And then in high school, I did like drumline and played in like the jazz band and stuff like that. And then also was in like this pop punk, like rock band. And we would like play like shows in like Lincoln and like Omaha and Kearney. We'd go to like Kansas City, play a show, went to like
cool.
Minneapolis. We did like a little mini tour, and like we recorded like a whole project in like Wichita, Kansas, in this guy's base. And this guy like lived with his mom, and then in the garage he had like a studio, and he would just like chug Mountain Dews.
Chug Mountain Dews.
Like it was just like the only like things offered to us, like we're like recording, water, and Mountain Dew. And we recorded this whole EP and put it out, and like it was really fun. But then around the same time that I was in that band, I was starting to get it. I was listening to a lot of rap music too, and I was like, there were a couple like rappers at my high school, and I was already really into messing around on GarageBand. Like whenever I was at like a friend's house whose like parents had a Mac that had it. And so I kind of was familiar with like the general layout of like like taking loops and arranging them. And so then I wanted to make rap beats basically. And then I got Logic, which is basically like, the pro version of GarageBand.
Sure.
And just started like making beats.
Still in high school doing that?
Yeah, in high school.
Okay.
So that was kind of like the building blocks, the beginning of it. And then I was working at a grocery store, so I would like save up money and then like buy like a mic, or like I bought like a keyboard and a little interface, and eventually I had a little like studio set up in my room. And I would start recording like just kids in my high school that were rappers basically. And we worked on a bunch of made a bunch of like albums, and we like, this was back in like people still listen to CDs, so we would like sell CDs at high school,
burn them and stuff. Yeah,
we had to sell like blank burn CDs for like $5. Yeah,
that was always the going rate. Every CD was like $5.
$5. That's funny
that
it's more than you get from streaming now.
Oh, right. I know you can get 1 million plays and probably get $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's so. After doing that, like, did you go to did you move to LA pretty soon, like after high
So
school, or
before
how'd that work?
before I lived in New York actually. I moved to New York
Oh.
when I was 18. I was like applying to colleges because I knew I wanted to leave Nebraska and go to like a bigger city, like go to like a real city.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just looking at different programs and then I stumbled across the Clive Davis Institute at NYU.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
it was like kind of in its infancy, like it was like I think 8 years in or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this is like music production and business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so without even really knowing what NYU was or having any context for it, because being from Nebraska, not really having like spent much time in New York,
Mm-hmm.
I just applied to it and I got in. And so then
Wow.
I went.
Did
I
you
went
have to like send an audition tape? I talked to somebody actually like 2 days ago, who went there, and that was the first person I ever talked to. It's interesting that you
huh.
also went there. But she was talking about like an audition process where you had to like go and you should have to sing on the spot. Like, did you have to do anything like that?
So I guess I got lucky because I didn't have to sing on the spot or anything. And like that was one of the appealing things about it actually, because I also was thinking about applying to Berkeley, but I didn't feel like I was good enough as a drummer to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing kids that I knew that could get into Berkeley, they were way better at music than me, like just in terms of like musicianship.
Mm-hmm.
So for the Clive Davis application, I submitted a bunch of songs that I'd produced for local rappers and beats that I had made
Mm-hmm.
for just like for fun. And then you had to submit that and like several essays just about music and like your Desert Island albums and stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Oh,
Um,
that's cool. That's kind
yeah,
of a cool concept to do, that they actually wanted to make sure that you were like a fan of music as well. Like that's it wasn't something like your parents were forcing you to go there,
yeah,
That's
exactly.
dope. That's really what were the Desert Island records, do you remember? Or one of them?
Yeah, I had to do three, um, and I picked the Chronic.
Classic.
I picked Headhunters by Herbie Hancock,
Okay.
and I picked In Rainbows by Radiohead.
Radiohead.
And
Awesome.
I kind of picked them because like In Rainbows, like at the time they had done the first like pay as you want download.
Oh yeah, they did. That was the very first thing. It was like pay what you want to pay for the record.
Yeah, and so I kind of like picked that one so I could talk about how I really like that model,
Mm-hmm.
and thought it was like an interesting way to put out an album. And then, Herbie Hancock just because I love that album, and then the Chronic because I also love that album and just the influence of like funk,
Sure.
and like George Clinton and stuff, which I was a big fan of
That's
too. So
awesome. Very cool. Very
yeah,
cool. So you went there. Did you go in as a drummer and producer?
yeah, basically like I kind of knew like towards the end of high school that I wanted to focus more on production just because I knew I could like sit in front of a computer and make beats for like 10 hours and not get tired. Versus like, but I couldn't like sit and practice like rudimentals on drums for 10 hours, So I was like, okay,
Right.
I could see myself doing this as a job. So I went in like just as a producer and ended up learning a ton about not only the business and producing, but also engineering and meeting a bunch of people. I learned a lot about DJing just from DJing parties at NYU and doing and putting together parties and stuff. And then and yeah, I learned about all the crazy stuff that happens in the music industry basically. And at
Sure.
the time, you know, they were like the streaming hadn't happened yet and it was at this weird like everyone was releasing mixtapes for free and like
Mm-hmm.
the industry wasn't doing so well. So all of our professors were like, we don't know what to tell you guys because you're kind of coming in like
At a
after seeing
weirdest
our thing,
time.
like before,
Yeah.
like it was a really bad time for the music industry. So we kind of had to figure out stuff on our own too, a lot.
Mm-hmm. And what took you to Los Angeles from New York?
So after graduating, I stayed in New York for an additional like 6 years. Like
Wow.
I just moved to LA like in September.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. So you're recently moved here then. Wow. Okay.
yeah.
So in New York is where you really kind of built your brand and everything.
Yeah, New York is where I like learned how to like make a living with music and where I met a lot of the like all of the artists that I work with and just like my collaborators and after graduating I was working at this nightclub called Output just as like a it's not a day job, it's a night job.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I would do that at night, and then in the day I would like make music.
Mm-hmm.
And I had like a little studio just like in my room, and then I later got like a small studio in this place in Bushwick called the Sweatshop, which is basically just a factory converted into a bunch of like 8x10 cement rooms for people that
Oh,
make music.
yeah, that's
And
cool.
and started to like just trying to figure out what to do, like how to make a living from music. And you know, because I loved making beat, I could do it all day. And kind of found my way like getting like the first thing that like I earned money from just from making music was syncing music to this show called Broad City.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was it was just, it hadn't come out yet, but my friend got the music supervision gig, and he was like, send me some stuff. And so I sent him like 4-5 beats, and he licensed like 4 of them. And I was like, oh wow, like I can. And it was cool. It was like, oh, I'm getting paid, and it's on TV. And then the show turned
Yeah.
to be popular, and then so it was really cool. And it was kind of like, oh, there's actually a way to like not be like dead broke and make music.
Uh-huh.
And then from there, I started working with this rapper named Wati Haru, who was just a local dude that I'd met through this band I worked with in college named Phony People. And we made an EP and put it out, and it got like some good like looks just on like that was like in the blog era.
Sure.
So like that like kind of like everything kind of just snowballed, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually I started a studio with a couple people in Soho called Off Record. And that was really what like we did that and started it the beginning of 2016. And that kind of like that snowballed into just getting more, working with more artists, working with artists signed to major labels. And
How is
stuff
that?
like
That was that like a totally elevated game? Like if somebody came in that was on a major label, was it like different than any other, like a different artist coming in that wasn't kind of backed by a big
yeah,
major?
I mean there's an added level of just like, oh, the stakes are a little higher, but at the end of the day it's just people in a
Sure.
room making music. So it wasn't like as long like it what they weren't like, we were meeting these artists as they were coming up too. So it was like they
Wasn't
were
this?
excited, we were excited,
Uh-huh.
and we were making like shit that we all really liked. So
Yeah.
um it was a really good time because everyone was kind of new to it in a way.
Right. Was there a moment like what was the first person? Was there or if was there ever a person that walked in and you're like, dang, like I get to work with this person, like this is crazy. Like I'm kind of shook or nervous.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was nervous, but like one of the first kind of bigger sessions that I ran and then got a placement from was Ski Mask Slump God. And he had just signed his deal like literally that week.
Oh wow.
And he like came in, and I was a fan already because I'd heard his song like Life Is Short, which was just a SoundCloud like song that went crazy. It was before
Uh-huh.
he was signed. And so I was like, oh,
Okay.
I like this artist already. Um, didn't even really know what it meant to like work with a major label artist, just knew that he had just signed. And I
Mhm.
was just supposed to engineer the session. Um, and his A&R came in, who was basically also brand new and just started A&Ring like, 6 months ago. Um, and he downloaded a beat folder and then left the room. But then the folder he downloaded wasn't a beat folder, it was like the wrong folder. And so I was like, I have some beats. Do you want to hear like some beats? And Ski was like, yeah, play something. And the first beat I played, his eyes got like really wide, and like he was like, I'm gonna go record right now. And he like went and recorded the hook and the first verse to this song called Bird Is the Word. And it was just like kind of just this crazy moment because like he was like kind of blowing, like starting to blow up.
Uh-huh.
Um and so he was starting to post snippets of it, and it would get like 30,000 views and all these, it was just like
Oh
it
yeah.
was like crazy. And like then if I posted about it and he would like retweet me or something, then all of a sudden my shit was like,
On fire.
yeah, like all of a sudden I had to turn off my notifications on everything because it would just be
Whoa.
like ding ding ding.
That's
Uh
crazy. That must have been wild. Like
yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine having that experience of just what is going on? Like my Twitter is just going nuts. Like that's
it was really
crazy.
it was really exciting. And like
Yeah.
then he played the song with XXXTentacion at Rolling Loud. Like this is all before the song had come out, and also the song had leaked. Like I don't know who leaked it. I didn't leak it, and I sent it to him. So maybe he had sent it to someone who leaked it. I'm not sure. So like the first version got leaked, and then they performed it at Rolling Loud, and then he came back after kind of had all this stuff had happened, and he was like, "Let's finish this song. I love this song." And so then we finished the second verse, and then it went out on his first kind of like major label tape.
Wow.
And that was the first like big artist that came through. And
that's crazy. And then he performed it with XXXTentacion over like
live at Rolling Loud and it was like one of the big, you know, when Rolling Loud was just starting to, or like kind of the first really big Rolling Loud, and they had kind of had this like falling out, and they performed that song together, and it was kind of like them like coming back together as like friends and stuff.
That's crazy.
So it was like this, it was just this insane moment. And you know, so much of up to that point was just me like in a room making beats and kind of wondering how I was going to do any of this, or like how I was going to, like what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. And that beat that I played him was just some beat I'd made like 6 months before, you know,
right,
in my room, you know. So it would, you know, and there's a lot of, you know, periods, times like that where it's like something's really exciting and you feel like you're kind of on fire. Mm-hmm. You know, those are the parts that are like, they make all the times where nothing's happening like bearable, you know.
Worth it. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, when did you decide to start releasing your own music?
So I've like the first song I released under Kashaka, which is like my producer moniker. I put it out in 2014 because and it was just a beat. But it was a beat that got on Broad City, and I was like, might as well just put it on Spotify and see what happens. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and it like they put it on the Broad City playlist, and then it did like decent numbers. And so I've been putting out music under my producer name since like 2014, but it's been really sporadic. Like I put out a DJ mix through like OK Africa. And that was a bunch of like African like inspired, you know, like and different music from different parts of Africa. And then I put in 2 songs that I had just like sampled like this Senegalese artist, you know, on. And then I put out that EP with that rapper, and it was kind of a dual build, so it was like his name and my name on it. Mm-hmm. And then I put out some songs with this artist Zebra Katz that were, it's kind of similarly like billed as both of us. But you know, then when I started to run the studio and produce for other artists for the last basically 4 years, mm-hmm. I was just more focused on finishing songs for other artists. Other
artists, yeah.
Yeah. And this song actually I made like a while ago, like in 2017 or so. We shot a video for it in like 2017, 2018, I think.
The one that's coming out?
The one that's coming out. And like, I had this whole EP, and this has happened to me like a few times actually, where like I'll have a whole project like ready to go, and then something will just derail the whole thing, and then I'll just like lose. I'll just be like, fuck it, I'm not putting it out. Like
right.
Like, it didn't go exactly how I wanted to, so like
it's not coming out.
It's worthless, you know. But now I'm just like, why am I doing that? Like I could be putting all these songs out, and like even if it doesn't go exactly as planned, like if someone might enjoy it, and like it might be worth it, you know. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of changed my perspective on it. But yeah, I made this song was part of a project with a bunch of songs, and like I had a bunch of artists on it, and a couple artists didn't sign off on it because they had their own release plans, and it didn't work well with their plans. And
it kind
of discouraged me, and I was like, well, I want to put it out this way, and now it's not this way. So being like a stubborn artist, I was like, no. But now like the director of the video like hit me up, and she was Patricia, and she's like, Eli, like I did a new cut of this video. It's really good. Like, why are you not putting this out? And I was just like, you know what? You're right. Like, why the hell am I not putting this out? This is something I like, you know, and like, you know, I might as well, you know, life is short. It doesn't make sense to like not put out stuff, you know, like.
Sure.
So that's kind of like my perspective's changed on a little bit.
When is it coming out?
So it's coming out middle of February.
Oh, okay. And tell me about the video, because like from what I'm reading, it's got I mean, this you have this director and it's got kind of a cool visual
Yeah.
aspect to it, right?
Yeah. So like it's very kind of like it's kind of conceptual,
Oh, cool.
and like artsy for lack of a better word, but um the video is basically like like we try to make like a visual representation of like some of the feelings that I had when I was making the song, which were kind of these feelings of like feeling anxious, like social anxiety and um like discouragement, and but then like in questioning like faith and like what is this all for, kind of like existential crisis vibes.
Mhm.
And that's like when I was making the song, that's kind of like what I felt. So we try to like do that like visually by with kind of like this kind of abstract in an abstract way.
Mhm.
And Patricia is like a super talented director, and super like she can take an idea and put visuals behind it in a way that I can't do,
Mhm.
in the way that I would do if on the music side,
Sure.
so and then I just wanted to get a bunch of friends involved. So basically, the lead in the video is my friend Kiko, super talented dude. It was like the first time he ever acted in anything. And
That's cool.
he's like a natural. Like he was just so good at it, and I just knew that. So I was like, dude, come on, like let's do this. And
Mhm.
then my friend Slice is like this incredible like clothing designer, like has done these amazing like collabs with Puma and stuff, but has always
Wow.
flown under the radar.
Mhm.
Um, and I know Kiko and Slice because of Wati, who's the artist I previously mentioned, who I put out an EP with back like when I was first kind of getting my like getting the ball rolling with like the music stuff.
Mhm.
And so Wati's in it, and we shot it in a bunch of locations, but one of the locations was at Output, which is the club that I used to work at. And my job there was stage manager, but then it kind of evolved into this role where I was putting together shows and DJing at them.
Oh,
So we
wow.
shot it at a show that I like was DJing at, um, called Everyday Afrique, which is basically a show that um, it's like it was like the first big Afrobeats show in New York, basically.
Wow.
And like the reason I was even like tapped into that world was because when I was in NYU, I studied abroad in Ghana, and like just fell in love with the music when I was there and just got really into it.
Oh, wow.
When I came
That's
back,
awesome.
yeah. And so then when I came back to New York, I was like, all I want to do is like play this music out, but I never heard anybody playing it. And but then one day I was walking on in the Lower East Side, and I heard music that I like, some Ghanaian music, and I was like, whoa, what party is this? And it was Everyday People, which is like, I wasn't hip to it at the time, but it was like a pretty like well known in certain circles like party happening like in different places in New York. Um, so then we partnered to make Everyday Afrique, um, which was like, it was like okay Africa, which is like okay players like Africa,
Uh-huh.
like focused editorial, and then that party Everyday People, and then this guy DJ Cortega and this guy DJ Underdog, who are like, DJ Cortega's lives in Senegal, DJ Underdog lives in DC, but they've been throwing parties like this in DC for a long time.
Mhm.
So we all came together and made that party. This is a long story, but
No, it's rad. Yeah.
then like that. So one of the scenes is from that party.
Oh,
It
cool.
was just like a really like fun, packed rooftop party that we would do every summer. Um, and then the other scenes, one of them we shot at the beach.
Mhm.
Kind of like we were trying to represent like rebirth, or like someone gaining their confidence, because that's another aspect of like the song and the concept of the video is like you kind of have you it starts out with Kiko having this kind of like social anxiety and being like uncomfortable in his own skin and in his own in like amongst his friends even,
Mhm.
and then the idea is that he like is reborn, and then he has this like newfound confidence and like this kind of feeling of like he could do anything.
Mhm.
So we shot at the beach, and then we also shot it at this thing that I would just like had like rode my bike by one day, that was like this massive like salt mound in like industrial Bushwick. that was
Oh,
covered by
weird.
this huge like covering, and it was some like construction like salt deposit. I guess they would just use it for whenever they needed salt. I just go pick them up. But
Scoop some up.
yeah, I'm not really sure what they're doing with that salt, but it's just sitting there and it's this massive like hill basically. And I would always ride by and be like, this is like unlocked. Like anyone can just come in here. And I was like, I can shoot something here. And like, so we did. And it was really fun. Like I think it looks really cool. Like when we had a drone. And so it's like when you can kind of get the scope of the whole thing, it's like, it's kind of cool.
That's awesome. I can't wait to check it out. That sounds, yeah, amazing. That's really rad. So it's coming out in a few weeks from now, huh? In the middle of next month. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
We're just finishing the artwork now, so I'm going to schedule it. Very
sick.
DIY.
That's sick. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. That sounds amazing. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'll send you the link when it's
hell yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I have a question. Where were you when COVID happened, and how did that affect your work?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I was in New York.
Oh my.
And
And
so
yeah, thick of it all.
Yeah. So I was going to the studio every day. And in February, the end of February, I had just gotten back from LA. Like I had taken a trip to LA, and it was a really fruitful trip. And I was like, I just got into a bunch of rooms that I was with a lot of good opportunities, working with some good producers and artists. And I was like, man, LA seems like a good place to live. Like I thought maybe in like a year or two, I'll like move over to LA and try to like be more bi-coastal and like, keep running the studio or whatever. And then when COVID hit, it was pretty bad in New York. I mean, it was really bad in New York. And I was just there through the worst parts, basically. And it essentially shut down our studio. And the way I was looking at it, I just, there's 3 partners, and like, it was me, my boy Dylan, and my boy Adrian. Dylan's an amazing engineer, and like tour manager and musical director. He can do, actually he doesn't tour manage, but he's amazing engineer, musical director, mixer, and recording engineer, vocal producer. And then Adrian is an amazing producer who's like basically like leading like the Brooklyn drill rap scene. He's like a huge part of that. A-Lau, he's like building something really special there.
That's cool.
And we were all working on the studio together and like running our businesses through it. But when COVID hit, I was just like, I just didn't think things would be open. Like I didn't know when things were going to open back up. And like, the studio, when we're running it, it pays for itself. But when there's no sessions, it gets expensive,
Right, of course.
And we weren't good at like, we didn't really know how to do the whole like PPP loan and all the like stuff that like a lot of like other businesses were taking advantage of. Like we just weren't that savvy with it. So we didn't really know how to, take advantage of that and get that like government money. So I was like, guys, I think I'm going to like pull out of the studio. Cause like, I think I'm going to leave New York first of all.
Wow.
And it just felt like maybe it was time to try something new. I've been in New York for 10 years and I love New York. It's my favorite place in the world. But especially after that trip to LA in February, it just felt like maybe I should come out here and try it. And so we kind of like, Adrian took over the studio, and then we kind of all went our separate ways. And then I moved here, and I moved back to Nebraska for a little bit, just to like save some money and like
regroup,
like kind of figure my shit out.
Yeah.
Wrote a bunch of music out there, which was really fun.
Awesome.
Saw some like old friends from like when I was growing up who were also into music, and we were jamming and like recording stuff, and considered like living there like more long term, because I was like, well, everything's remote now, so
right, exactly. Why spend the money to live in LA when it's going to cost you 3 times more?
Like the rent in Nebraska is so cheap. Like I could have had like a house, but then decided kind of like for me, it's like I really do feed off the energy of working with other artists and being in the same room with artists. So like, I was like, okay, I don't think I could actually stay in Nebraska long term.
Sure.
All love and respect, because Nebraska is a special place in my heart. It's where most of my family is. It's like home,
Definitely.
But yeah, so I came out here in September, And so yeah, COVID changed like everything in my life basically.
Yeah, it
Other
sounds
than
like,
my,
I mean, well, it kind of gave you the push, right, to get back out to LA. I mean, it
yeah,
sounds like you wanted to be there anyway, and it was like, now here's the time because everything's shut down anyway.
exactly. So it did. It kind of just like it accelerated all the things that I was already kind of thinking about doing. So in
Yeah,
some ways it was a good kind of like a like readjustment in my life, you know.
definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, with that, like you said, you were writing a lot of music when you're home. Do you have like a full body of work ready to go, or were you just gonna put this next song out and see what happens? I mean, you have a video for it and everything.
Mhm.
What
So
are you thinking of next?
I have a bunch of stuff. And I also like earlier this year released like a solo project under my like actual name, not under Kashaka, but under my name Eli Evnen.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I wrote a bunch of stuff for that as well.
Is it just different sonically? Is that what you want? Change the name on it? Okay.
Yeah, so it's like I'm singing on it and like playing most of the instruments. So it was something I wanted to try that was kind of outside of the stuff I was producing for other artists and also outside of kind of like this song, which is more instrumental, like, you know, so yeah, I kind of like wanted to separate it because it just felt different.
Hmm.
Um, so I wrote a bunch of songs for that, and I just made a bunch of beats to send to people, but and also wrote some instrumentals I think I could release on my own. So I think like without having a super set plan, the general idea is this year just to put out music both as Kashaka and as Eli Evnen, with this song being the first one coming out, um, and then see where it takes me. Yeah,
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see this video and hear this song. It sounds like it's gonna be dope. So, yeah, I can't wait to check that out in the next couple weeks. And thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate you being on.
yeah. Likewise, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have one more question for you before I let you go, though. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
It's a really good question. I still feel like I'm an aspiring artist, so I don't know how much wisdom I can impart, but um,
You're doing it, man. You're a pro. I mean, come on.
but I would say like some of the things that a lot of people say that I agree with is like just work with people around you that are kind of at the same level as you, because that's at every point in my career, like where I was able to level up was when I just worked with people around me that we kind of shared interest and talent level, and like that was what boosted things. The occasional placement with the big artist happened too, but that only happened because of the foundation and the collaboration that I was doing with people that were, you know, like those releases and building the studio with with Adrian and Dylan, who were kind of like also in the similar world as I was, like all those things set set me up for getting those bigger looks. But without that, I wouldn't have had any of it, you know?
Mhm.
So, and included like going back to even that first EP that I put out with Wati Haru, like if we hadn't put that out and put like everything we could into it, like I wouldn't have met Adrian. Like
Mhm.
he heard that music and that's how we met. So it's like everything like work begets work always. Like you always want to be making stuff. And whenever I've put stuff out, it's actually gone well, which is weird why I've been so like hesitant to put stuff out, because like it's kind of a leap of faith, you know. But I would just say, be prolific, work with the people around you, put stuff out, try to package it well, and then keep it moving. Like sometimes things are gonna go well, sometimes things aren't. Like I put stuff out that didn't get any attention, but I learned from those experiences too. So that'd be my advice.